Hello everyone, happy Training Tuesday. I hope your week is going well so far. This is where we go through regular tips and tricks to help you build a professional life you love every Training Tuesday, which is every other Tuesday. And this week we are talking about the importance of iteration. So this is something that I feel very strongly about, as with most things, and it has been top of mind for me recently. And this is because iteration is, I think, one of those things that doesn't get talked about enough. For a lot of us, there's this weird pressure, myself included. I was chatting with a friend about this the other day, which is, I think, why it's top of mind, of this idea of having to constantly tweak and evolve my business and, rework stuff and refine stuff. And I've been in business for 4 years now. And so I think it's really important to think about this topic of constantly evolving. And so because this has been top of mind for me, it's also something that I often talk with clients about, right? Because a lot of times when I chat with folks and we're talking about potentially starting coaching, like they come to me wanting answers, right? They want to figure out what it is that they need to do or what their right answer is for what their right career is. Again, right career, all in parentheses. And it's because, right, people feel like they like to treat growth as this thing they want to have done, but they don't want to have the growing pains or the uncomfortable process to get there. And so they think of it as something that we kind of have to do and that it's over, opposed to a lifelong process, which I would argue is more accurate to how it tends to be. And so when people come to me, right, they often want these answers. They want to figure out what that answer is. But what I would always argue for them, and what I tend to try and lovingly encourage people to reframe their focus around, is I want them to get clarity on who they are and what that means eventually for their career, not help them get clarity around an answer for what is their right choice, right? Because doing so has a lot of incorrect assumptions that it's based on. One, it assumes that there is a right choice. It assumes that there's only one right choice. It assumes once you make that choice, you have to stick to that choice forever, right? And these are all a lot of not necessarily healthy assumptions. And so what we want you to focus on instead is iteration. And I was explaining it to a client like this last week, which I was saying is like, all we're trying to do is find that through line for you. We want to find, the example I use is if you're in a dark room and you're feeling around and you feel this kind of cord, and the cord takes you to the center of the room and it takes you out into the light, escapes whatever, adventureplex you're in that's an all dark room. I actually think there used to be something like this in San Francisco, why I think this analogy this way. But essentially it's a dark room and you find the thing that you know is going to take you out of it. We just want you to follow that cord. And so what we're trying to do for people is to help them find that cord for themselves, to get that real clarity on who they are and what they need in their role so that they can then try and find it. And so I think this is my long, somewhat rambly way of saying, please, 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 I really want to encourage you today to focus on iteration and learning a process and recognizing that this is a lifelong thing, opposed to just looking for a quick answer, because quick answers are not helpful. And that's probably why we're at the confused, frustrated place we are in the first place. If you're reaching out to me saying, I'm hoping for this answer, well, we're probably frustrated because we're thinking of it as an answer in the first place, right? So give yourself flexibility, give yourself capacity to change, give yourself, a bit of relaxation from the pressure by not thinking of it as this big, huge, daunting, I need to find the answer thing. And instead focus on, there's constant room for iteration. There's constant room for evolving. Whether you are an entrepreneur or someone who's in corporate, we are always tweaking things. And so that's my lesson for myself this week, and my lesson for you is there's no done, right? We don't ever typically arrive. We're constantly adjusting and adjusting and adjusting. And I think the sooner you think of it that way, the better for a lot of us. And so that's my encouragement for you this week, to really ask yourself, truly, truly ask yourself, am I looking at this as hoping for direction and iteration, or am I putting pressure on myself to get it right? Because the more pressure you put to get it right, the more paralyzed and overwhelmed you're going to be, right? So definitely please let me know if this resonated with you. Let me know in the comments if you feel like you can say either iterating, if you feel like you're on that and you're on iterating, or you can say, look, I've been looking for an answer, if that's what you've been doing so far, because you're definitely not alone with that. I've done that before. That's why it's so easy for me to ID in people. Most of my clients have done that before, and this is a conversation we tend to have. So you are definitely not alone, but instead focus on the iteration. Okay. So I'm here to remind you of that as long as possible, as much as possible, but know that growth is a growing process and we don't typically arrive. So that's my friendly reminder to you today. Ask yourself that, get real with yourself. And in the meantime, happy working.